Hi, Laura. Welcome to Latinos Homeschooling YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us today. Laura is the owner of Los Amigos Books, and they're located in it's Berwyn, right?
Yeah.
Berwyn, Illinois, and it's really close to Chicago. What I love about her store, I went and visited a couple times, is just the variety of bilingual books. And in Latinos Homeschooling, we actually have a book club, and one of the books that we picked was from your store is The Shadow Shaper, and my kids just finished reading it with along with other homeschoolers across the country. So thank you so much, Laura, for being here. And happy Three Kings Day. How are you guys celebrating today, if you're celebrating?
Yeah, so it's a tradition that we used to celebrate as a little girl with my brothers and sisters. And now that I have a son myself and I'm a mom, we want to keep that tradition alive. So yesterday I had my son put out his little zapatitos near the door, how we used to do when we were younger, and put little gifts in there. He enjoys like cars and dinosaurs. So we put little cars and dinosaurs in there, but we also have area behind his shoes where we could put like a bigger gift. So he got lots of books and toys for Los Reyes. And then we have a rosca that we're cutting into today. So it's gonna be fun.
That's awesome. So did you grow up celebrating Dia de los Reyes when you were a child?
Yeah, definitely. So my mom and my dad are immigrants from Mexico.
Mhm.
So when they came here, that was mainly what they celebrated. Of course, Christmas is big in Mexico too, but there was more so focus, at least in my family, on Dia de Reyes. So I grew up celebrating that until about like 5 years old when we were school age. And you're the more that you're in this country, the more you assimilate. So the focus shifted a little bit from Dia de Reyes onto Christmas, the way how it is in this country. But it's a beautiful tradition. And now that I'm a mom, I definitely want to keep that alive with my son. So we're starting to celebrate it now that he's little, he can enjoy it.
Hmm. Yeah, my parents, like your parents, they weren't really big into Christmas gifts or anything like that because that wasn't the tradition. My dad said that it was Dia de Reyes. Um they grew up a little pretty poor, so my dad said they would get these dolls or these toys with made out of I don't know if you've seen like paper, like the dolls that are made out of like cardboard or
Yeah, like
yeah.
cartone. Mhm.
Yes. And he said like 2 days later, because they played with them so much, they were just gone. They were just so excited to get a toy. But they would talk about it. And one year when we were in Mexico during that time, usually we would come right after New Year's because we had to come back to school or work. But when we were in college, we were able to stay there a little longer, and I was able to see, and that was actually the first time I really saw like the rosca,
Yeah.
and then there was a procession in my town, and I just saw the whole plaza filled with toys. And one year I took my kids during that time, and my parents did that to them what they didn't do to me, that they put their shoes out, and they gave them the toys. So it's a nice tradition. Today we're celebrating with some friends, and I we never I we just buy the rosca with my family, just the five of us, or or maybe my brother might come over, and that's basically it. But this year I invited a few people, and I said, let's just do something bigger.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sounds like it's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
kind of like the end to Chris well, it's kind of like the end, the 12th day. It's the 12th night of Christmas today. So
Yeah, for us, Christmas, it doesn't end until the other Reyes is over. So that's
mhm.
how we work in the bookstore too. We have all the Christmas decorations still, and we have the Reyes Magos books out. So we have like clients sometimes who come in who are American and they're like, "Oh, it's still Christmas in here," and it's like, "Yeah, it's still Christmas for us." You go to Mexico and everything's still up, and it isn't until the other Reyes that then okay, the season's a little bit over.
Yeah, it's cool. So, so I want to know a little bit more about you and the bookstore. So, first of all, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, Laura.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm a daughter of Mexican immigrant parents.
Mhm.
I used to be a teacher, a dual language teacher in public schools here in Illinois. And before that, I was also a teaching assistant for the Spanish department at the University of Illinois. So while I was teaching, I really fell in love with curating my classroom library and really found joy in finding the books that the reluctant readers would want to read. And it was especially a challenge for us as dual language teachers to really want or get students to be interested in reading in Spanish. So and it's hard because there's a lot of really well produced and illustrated books in English that are super popular that all the kids know of. So they gravitate more towards wanting to read the English books. So I always found it like a great joy and a challenge that I enjoyed to find those books published in Spanish that were at the same caliber and quality as the ones that the kids really gravitated towards in English. So I was always like working on my classroom library in that way, and I really loved finding that one book in Spanish that the reluctant reader really enjoyed reading. So that's where it all started, and I got my librarian degree as while I was teaching as well, to be a certified school librarian. But then COVID happened and a lot of other personal things happened in my life. I got pregnant with my son and decided that I wanted to raise him the way my mom raised us when we were younger, before we were 5 years old. She stayed home with us and nos crió, right? She taught us everything. She watched us. So that was something that I really like cherished, that my mom did that for us. Obviously, you don't think about that when you're 3 years old. You might not be the most, you know, cognizant, but it's such a great sacrifice that she did for us that I wanted to do for my son. So I left teaching to be at home with him instead of, having him home for 6 weeks and then shipping him off to daycare while I worked. It just didn't really make sense for me financially, emotionally, and what I wanted to do. So I was, a stay-at-home mom for quite a while. I want to say almost up until he was 2 years old. It wasn't until he was two that I felt I had a little bit more free time. He was weaned, so so I had a little bit of more time, and I like, what can I do with my skills that I gained as a teacher, as a school librarian, and my passion for books and finding Spanish language books. So I always had that, I guess, in the back burner of my head, that that's something that I would want to do. So I started an online bookshop, and it started off just as online, losamigosbooks.com, and that's how we started. And after a little bit of being online, I saw the importance of getting out there in the community and spreading the word that we have these resources for parents who want to raise their children to be bilingual, like how I was doing with my son. So I started signing up for craft fairs and farmers markets. There's anywhere really where I could put a table with books and gain increase the awareness about losamigosbooks.com. And it started off as that. And just by getting the feedback from our customers that we met, they're like, where are you located? When are you going to open your physical location? And, it just so happened that around the same time, I heard about an incubator project called the Berwyn Shops. And it was something that I completed like at the application at midnight. I didn't think it had anything, any chance of getting in, but we made it. We were one of the top ones selected to be part of the business incubator. And that's how the physical location of Los Amigos Books started. So last year, or I want to say, no, not last year, because now now it's 2024, but in 2022, we were in the Berwyn shops from June to December, and I really like that, having a physical location where our customers can come and they know that they can find us reliably. And so we did that for 6 months, and I did not want that aspect of the business to go away. So we were presented with another opportunity to be part of a slightly different business incubator project called the Berwyn Boutique, still here in Berwyn, obviously, but now inside the Cermak Plaza. And that's where we're at right now. It's a beautiful 3,000 square foot space that we share with two other Latina owned businesses. And we help each other out in that aspect because, as you may imagine, it's very expensive to rent here in the Cermak Plaza next to Old Navy and Shoe Carnival and Ross. So those big corporate names. So we share the rent financially. We help each other out in that way. But we're also able to have the benefits of having a retail store for businesses as well.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And it's in a great location. There's great parking. Like you said,
Yeah,
every other
parking. That's
stores are around there. I was able to visit your store twice, so that's awesome. But I do want to ask you one question. Going back to when you started building your library in Spanish, how did the students respond to having those books available in Spanish? And were they more did they gravitate towards them, or how did that?
it was a big like push on my part for them. So the way the dual language programs work is part of the program, I guess, requirements is that every classroom teacher has to have an equal amount of English language books and Spanish language books because of the fact that the subjects are taught in different languages. So there's an language allocation plan. I'm sure you're familiar with something like similar in being a homeschooler where you decide which subjects during what part of the year are going to be taught in one language and which ones are going to be taught in another. So in reading, I guess maybe part of the year reading would be taught in Spanish, so it's certain topics in Spanish, and then the other part of the year it would be in English. So there's always a time in the reading course where they have independent reading, where they choose books that interest them that they want to read. And so you had to have, it was important to have a good amount in English and good amount of Spanish that they could choose from, so that regardless of the language of instruction, they would have a plethora of books to choose from. But of course, the kids grew up here in the United States and they have that social pressure to speak more English, to assimilate, regardless if they're in a dual language program. Those are influences that they deal with. So they naturally want to gravitate towards the English language books y echan quejas cuando es tiempo de aprender y leer en español. You know, that's something that we struggle. But I maybe because they saw how passionate I was in finding Spanish language books that would be attractive and interesting to them, that I was able to, you know, shift them a little bit from, okay, yeah, that book is cool in English, but look, we also have it in Spanish here, and you can read it in Spanish here, and you can enjoy it just as much as you would enjoy it in English.
Um, because that's something that I myself struggle with my 10-year-old. My husband and I made a decision that he would speak to them in English and I would speak to them in Spanish. And my two girls, my two older girls, speak Spanish. It's not perfect, of course. They're but they do speak it. They only speak Spanish to me. My son, he says, "Oh, I don't really want to," and he's like, "You already speak English, Mom. You're fine." I'm like, "Yeah, but I speak both languages." So it's a constant battle only with him, really, because my two girls, they just were like, "Okay, this is how we talk." It's just I don't know what like you of course you want to be more positive, because if you are approaching it in a negative way, like this is what you have to do, there I don't think it's going to be as positive, or maybe not. But like what advice would you give up to a parent, because a lot of times in the school settings, I think sometimes kids listen to somebody that's not their parent more than their parent, you
Yeah.
know, especially a teacher. But for a parent to be more supportive, like especially in the homeschool environment, what advice would you give to the parent to encourage their children to read more books in Spanish? Because it is necessary. Bilingualism, there's so much research that it has so many benefits on our brain and our development, and of course, when they're little, they're not going to understand that.
No, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, as a teacher, I guess part of the program was to constantly make the children aware of the benefits of bilingualism. They had to work on something called the Seal of Biliteracy,
Hmm.
uh, and they had certain projects that they had to complete in the different grade levels, and they would get a little award. So I kind of have taken that into my parenting, like make it a conscious effort on my part to tell my son, like, oh, it's really, and in words that he'll understand, like, ah, es bien chido que puedes hablar español e
Yeah.
inglés. look, you can be friends with he has a friend in school, Liam, but you could also be friends with Javier, you know, so then you can get along with both, and that's cool because you get double amount of friends. So you kind of try to put it in words that they understand, and concepts that are important to them right now in their stage of development. And of course, as he gets older, I'll probably try to explain to him the cognitive benefits of being bilingualism or being bilingual,
Mhm.
when he understands them a little bit more. And just make it aware to him that, like, look, mom is successful because she speaks both languages, and that's why, I'm teaching you both languages. And so just constantly rewarding them for that ability, because as Latinos growing up in the United States, sometimes we take it for granted that we're bilingual, but it's an amazing thing that we have, and an amazing skill that maybe is not rewarded in other, or seen as positive in other, I guess, social circles, or situations, like in school. If you don't have your kid in a dual language program, they may not hear those praises. So we really have to make sure that we make our kids aware of how amazing they are because they are bilingual, but in words, and I guess in a concept that they can understand in a certain development that they're at.
I like your idea about maybe giving them prizes or something.
Yeah,
That's a really good idea. And also show them, like you use the example of the two friends, put an English book and a Spanish book, like, see, you're amazing. You can read both of these books
right.
and you can translate them. So yeah, thank you. Because that's something that us as homeschooling parents, we're the educator and the parent of our children. Sometimes most of the time, it's not, we don't put different hats on. It's like when you're a homeschooling parent, it kind of already is in your blood, and everything that you're doing is either being a parent and a teacher at the same time. There's no like, okay, now we're gonna be doing schoolwork. I'm gonna take my mom hat off and I'm gonna be your educator. It's not like that. My kids are now, most of the parents of children of homeschooling parents, the positive thing is they look at us as that educator, like, mom, what's this? Or, mom, I need to find this. It's amazing, but at the drawback is sometimes that when you tell them to do some, like, you have to read this book, that's when it gets a little bit complicated. Even if you're not getting your children used to reading at an early age as a habit, older, it could be a challenge sometimes.
You definitely
But
have to start young with anything, right? In terms of like getting them used to reading, getting them used to hearing Spanish. So
yeah.
that's something that I started with my son, since birth, and same with reading too, because a lot of times I'll have clients come into the bookstore and they'll say something like, ah, pero ¿por qué le voy a comprar un libro al bebé si ni habla todavía, ni lee todavía? And it's like, no, like,
Yeah.
like, tienes que empezar desde el principio. You have to start from the beginning with them, as early as like 2 or 3 months, as soon as they can, hold their little head up, like they can, sit up to watch you, read or listen to you read a book to them. So, and there's so many benefits that come from doing that early on.
Mhm.
Um, and I always just try to tell them, like, look, we even though babies don't speak yet, does that mean that we don't talk to them yet? It's like, no, it's same thing with reading. Like, we have to start from the very beginning, and they'll pick up what they can pick up, in that stage of development. But it's great to start, at very, very young, because there's so many benefits that they can gain from.
Yeah, and my husband and I, we're going through some old boxes, and we used to live in an apartment in the Northwest Side when my children, right, when my two girls were little, they were born there, and I think we moved here to our house like when they were, one was 3 and one was, I think, 5. But it was nice to have to go through these boxes, and we found these old those cardboard books, the thicker ones, that we probably gifted a lot of books, and some of them we bought, but a lot of them were so worn out, because my daughter, maybe she was not even talking. She would tell us to read in her nonverbal ways.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and it was just a thing about bonding with them too. It
yeah.
was more than the and sometimes you're tired. I've had times where my son even, I would be tired and I would try to skip a page. Like, no, 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 I don't remember it. He's like, go back. I'm like, okay. But it's a good bonding time as well. And it helps, your development with them. So there's the benefits are so amazing to reading. I have my middle daughter, my 13-year-old, she's dyslexic, and reading has always been a challenge. Even in our trips to the library, she never showed any interest to grabbing a book,
Mhm.
um, even though she loves to learn. So now that she's older, her reading has improved a lot. But when I assign them both a book to read, my oldest is can read probably and finish a book in a weekend. The
Mhm.
other one, it takes her weeks. So what I had the other daughter do, we read together when we do our assignments, but I had to listen to audiobooks.
Yeah,
And that also helps their vocabulary, right? Because even though let's say she's at seventh grade, she might be at a third grade reading level. The third grade, they still continue to develop. So you don't want to give them third grade books,
yeah.
in order to go overcome that challenge, it's doing audiobooks that's with their level. And that's something the advice I was given to by her tutor for dyslexia. She needs to continue to read, even if it's audiobooks,
Mhm.
that's still listening.
Absolutely, yeah.
So it's amazing. But I would like for you to tell me a little bit about what I was looking through your website, and I was intrigued with something you're offering. Your store has different let's say boxes of books. They're like surprise boxes that you can order depending on what age they are. So if there's a 10-year-old boy, I can order a box, or a 10-year-old child, and depending on what age level. So can you tell me a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, absolutely. So because of the fact that we have over 1,000 books on the website, sometimes it's hard to sift through all that, and so we came up with the idea of offering mystery boxes. They used to be subscription boxes, but we changed that. We didn't want anyone to feel tied down to a commitment, and they're just boxes that you can purchase whenever you can, whenever you can afford it, but we split it up into different age ranges.
Mhm.
So we have a 0 to 2 year old box, and when you choose that box, you have the ability to choose whether you want it for a boy, for a girl, or for all to enjoy. uh,
Mhm.
and then there's a next age range of 3 to 6 year old, then 7 to 9, and 10 to, I want to say, 12 plus. So you can choose based on the child's age and gender, or if you just want it to be gender neutral, you choose the all option. So we wanted to offer that to parents, and really just tias or tios who want to give a gift but don't feel like breaking their head and sifting through the thousands of books that we have on the website, and just something simple like a one-click buy that they know there's a professional behind selecting the books that are appropriate for that age and reading level.
That's awesome. So in order to order the books, they just go to the website and you can ship anywhere in the country, right?
Yeah, we ship nationwide, including to Hawaii, Alaska, all the US territories and military bases.
Okay. And also, I know you have a lot of children's books, but do you also have books for grown-ups as well?
Yeah, we're currently expanding our collection for adults. We it's a smaller collection right now here at the bookstore, but we are increasing it due to demand. So we get obviously readers of all ages walking into our bookstore. So we've had a lot of requests for adult language books. So as of last year, we started adding and building to that collection, and we're working on getting that online as well. So some of them are there, but not all. But we're working on getting all the ones that we have in the bookstore on our website as well.
Cool. And can you also tell me about for those who live in the Chicagoland area and want to visit your store, the hours, and I see that you have several events going on. Can you tell me about any that are coming up soon?
We are in the works of trying to see if we can get the creator of the Canticos books back
Mm.
here in the bookstore. We had her in, it was last year at the end of, I think early July or June is when she came. If you guys are not, if you're doing Latino homeschooling, you have to look up Canticos. I don't know if you could see the brand name. So Canticos is obviously they started as a publishing company. They have all the little books, but they also have their YouTube channel, and they're on Spotify and everywhere, all social medias. And they have animated videos that go along with their books of all the canciones that we grew up hearing, like Los Pollitos, Pimpón, Los
Mm,
Un Elefante. So all the classic nursery rhymes that you may have heard growing up, they have taken them and they've created them in a bilingual format in terms of books and videos online. So she came last year, and so we're talking with her again to see if she can come in the spring. So, and that's one of the things that I love about having a physical location, that we could have events like this for the Latino community, because there's few and far between the places that will have bilingual story times or bring in Latino authors and creators, and create these workshops for our community about topics that resonate towards us, such as bilingualism, or just simply having a band. We've had bands before come to our bookstore as well that will sing in Spanish and English. So creating those spaces where bilingualism can thrive and Spanish can be heard, that's one of the things that we pride ourselves in. So we're going to definitely have more events coming up. We have that one in the works, but also with another illustrator and an author. If you're familiar with Raul III, we're trying to see if maybe we could talk with his agent to bring him in. A local illustrator, her name is Andrea Campos. She illustrated a book written by Jimmy Fallon and Jennifer Lopez called Con Pollo. We've been talking with her to see if we can bring her in and do an illustration workshop. So if you follow us on our social media pages, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and we also send it over email as well. Whenever we have these events, we post about it and send out an email blast about it. So if you
yeah.
look follow us, you'll definitely be in the loop.
Well, Laura, I want to really thank you for doing this because, growing up, we didn't have spaces like yours. We didn't really see books that, with authors with our last names,
Right.
in major bookstores or anything. And to have just, a little shelf on in Barnes and Noble for Hispanic Heritage Month isn't enough. I mean, we're here and our population continues to grow, and we want to make sure that our kids, when they're young, are reading our stories. And I think, whatever career they choose or whatever path they choose in their life, um, just putting these seeds in them and reading these books about our stories is only going to help their self-esteem and confidence. So I mean, the benefits to all of this is so great. And that it's awesome. So I really want to thank you. And everybody who, if you're in Berwyn, please go visit Laura's store, Los Amigos Books. And in that, the incubator space is really, really cool. I actually purchased a plant right there by another person who has and it's still there. I'm not even a plant person, but it's beautiful. Just seeing these Latinas um get out there and have their businesses and create these spaces is awesome. Thank you so much. So I will post a link on of the website, and to your store and also your Facebook page.
Thank you so much for having me. And likewise, I know that I heard you thank me, but I also want to take this opportunity to thank the Latino community as well for supporting us all these years, because we wouldn't be able to do it without their support. So I'm happy to create the space and have events like this and have our stories and voices represented, and do that. But I'm really, really thankful as well for the community for coming and attending these events and coming and supporting our business. So I definitely want to take this opportunity to thank everybody, all the families who come and visit us on a daily basis.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you.